Hi everyone, it's Natasha from AxelsonAcademy, and I have the most wonderful book to share with you today, Night Owl by Christopher Denise. Now, Christopher Denise is a local author here, and Christopher Denise is also an illustrator and has done many books. So he's written and illustrated this book, and it is a Caldecott Honor Book for those illustrations. I highly recommend that you make sure that the youngsters you're reading this to can really see the pictures well. Whether you are projecting them in a classroom, whether you have the child sitting close to you, there's a lot of just adorable detail in these pictures that lend to the story quite a bit. Now, a key point in this story is the use of a homophone, and that would be the word night. In this case, we're talking about the knight with the K, that is the knight in shining armor that this owl desperately wants to become, this guard. And he also works at night because he's an owl, as in nighttime with the moon and the stars spelled without the K. So homophones are spelled differently. They have different meanings, but you say them the same way. And I would use that term with kids, as young as 2. They pick up on these great vocabulary words and love that language piece. Remember, with our littles here, we really are developing that language acquisition, that vocabulary, that understanding of nuanced language. And talking about homophones is so much fun. So I would tell them about homophones before you read this book so they can be listening for night and night and how it's used in the 2 different ways to make this a really fun wordplay. After you read this book, you also might decide to do some games with homophones. I'm going to link some below that I have found that are simple games where you can talk about sun and sun, plane and plane, and just all these different words that we have in our language that kids will know, and they'll be so interested to learn that they're homophones. So let's read Night Owl. Since the day he hatched, Owl had one wish: to be a knight. There's our first use of the word knight, that we would talk about what is it that he is wishing. And these illustrations, of course, are promoting recognizing the different types of knight here too. Every morning before he drifted off to sleep, he imagined himself as a real knight. He would be brave, he would be clever, and he would have many friends. It was just a dream until one day. Oh, so here we have the night, but it's also nighttime where he's sleeping, so we can do that comparison. And here we have a poster. Knighthood in just 2 weeks. Apply today. Live a life of honor and adventure. Knights began disappearing from the castle. So Owl applied to night school, and to everyone's surprise, he was accepted. Owl was an excellent student, but he had a tough time with a sword. Even the smallest shield was a problem, and he had a habit of nodding off during the day. Night school was hard, but Owl worked and worked. He graduated with honor, as all knights do. Owl was assigned to the night watch. He was very good at his job. Now you probably need to pause there and talk about, okay, this is the night watch. They're spelled 2 different ways. So here we have, he's dressed as a knight for his job, but it's also at night time. The other knights usually fell asleep during the long night watch, but Owl didn't mind. All alone on the castle wall, he finally felt like a real knight. Until late one evening, it was very dark and very, very quiet when Owl heard a strange sound. Whoosh! It sounded like a huge bird flapping its wings. Whoo! Owl called. He heard the sound again. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Hoo, hoo, he called. Whoosh, hoo, 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 Owl called. Who, me, said a deep voice. Who you? Asked Owl. I am a hungry dragon, said the dragon. Owl was very afraid. But because he was now a real knight, and knights are brave, he puffed out his feathers and said, I am Owl, and I am a knight of the Night Watch. You don't look like a knight, said the dragon. You look like a midnight snack. Owl's feathers trembled. But because he was a real knight, and knights are clever, he said, you don't want me. I am too small, hardly even a mouthful. A mouthful is enough, snarled the dragon. I am all feathers and fluff, said Owl. A great dragon like you needs something tastier and more filling. How about a pizza instead? It turned out that the dragon loved pizza. They talked about how each of them had hatched from eggs, how much they liked the night, and how flying was hard to explain to someone who had never done it before. They really had a lot in common. The following week, not a single night disappeared, or the week after that, and every night Owl patrolled the walls. It was very dark and very, very quiet, but Owl didn't mind because he was brave, he was clever, and he had many friends. What a delightful story about Owl becoming a knight. Now, this time of year, we've just had the New Year's celebration, and a lot of people are making New Year's resolutions. And I used to find that when I'd come back after vacation, we talked about New Year's resolutions and, setting a goal for our life. This is also a great book to use that way with students that are slightly older. So if I had a kindergarten or a first grade class, I probably would highlight this page. He imagined himself as a real knight. He would be brave, he would be clever, and he would have many friends. So as we set a New Year's resolution or a goal for our future, that was what Owl wanted to do. And we could then talk about the ways Owl went about becoming brave, becoming clever, getting more friends, and becoming a real knight. So there are lots of uses for this book, both within the classroom and in the home with your children. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.